Good morning. Good morning, everybody. What's up? How's it going? What's going on? Let's bring up Mr. Hey, buddy.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well for hump day.
What are you up to today?
I just finished a pretty ginormous project for work. Deadline was Friday of last week. Wrapped it up Monday due to some edits and things that had to be done. So I'm in cruise control for the next several days. I don't know what I'm
Oh,
doing.
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's why I get to join you this morning and head up to campus if and when I want. So, you know,
Okay.
enjoying the ride.
Good stuff. That's awesome. So give me a little background on what it is that you do and just fill me in on what all that means.
Yeah, so I've been a physical therapist 20 some odd years. I've been in academia teaching for the last five, but my current position is senior learning and development specialist, whatever that means. So I basically teach the teachers how to teach better, and I teach the students how to learn better. Uh,
Okay.
so that's basically using my educational doctorate more than my doctorate in physical therapy these days. But
Okay.
I actually enjoy that more, to be honest with you. I really like the thoughts and theory behind how we learn and what we learn and ways to teach it better.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. So you had what did the project entail that you just finished or completed?
We are switching our curriculum over to competency based, meaning less tests and quizzes and more like kind of internship type, almost like an apprenticeship where they have to show competency in the skills before they move on to the next phase and the next phase and the next phase,
Okay.
which is to me is the way the medical field should go. And I think doctors and nurses do a pretty good job of that. And the world of physical therapy is a little bit behind, so we're catching up to
Oh,
competency
okay.
based education. But I hate grades, if I'm being totally honest. I think grades are
Yeah.
ruining our educational system. I think our K through 12 is all based on, passing some state test or whatever because funding's linked to it. And but that's a whole nother rabbit hole for another day.
Of course. Of course it is. Yeah, I think that's a follows along the some stuff that Gary himself preaches at times, just
Yeah,
the education system. And I think a lot of us feel it, and
yeah,
I think that is one of the core reasons why a lot of us have flocked together to this man Gary, and the things that he says is I think a lot of us have found that in our life, that like the school system, the education system, the way it's built, the way it's designed isn't really working anymore. Many people go and get their degrees, and then they don't do anything with them, or they don't necessarily do much with them. I mean, it seems like you are, but yeah.
well, so again, like I think one of the reasons I was drawn to Gary early on is I higher education, even from K through 12 into higher education, it is like you're kind of sold a lie, right? Like get the best grades, go to the best school, get the best job. And truthfully, it doesn't have to be that way, right? So if
Hmm.
students come to me, let's say college students, and they say, "Hey, is physical therapy a good field to go into?" And I'm like, "Well, it depends, right? Like it is if you leverage it appropriately, but if you're going to come out with $150,000 worth of student loan debt, only making 65, 75,000 a year out the gate, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great starting salary, but not if you're underwater for the rest of your life
Hmm.
with student loan debt. So if you leverage it appropriately and turn it into something like I help, you know, like people start side businesses around their zone of genius, right? That's kind of what I do, like coaching wise. And so let's say you want to be a physical therapist that only works with quarterbacks, right? Because you were a quarterback in high school, then in college, played D1, then you blew out your knee and never went on to do anything more with it. But you love being a quarterback, you love working with quarterbacks, and now you just want to help quarterbacks get better and get healthier and get back to the field to play. Well, you could do that, right? You could start a podcast about quarterbacks. You can then, write a book about how you help quarterbacks get stronger and trained so that they can hopefully prevent injuries. You can, hold camps in the summer for training for quarterbacks and injury prevention, right? And then you can treat quarterbacks. I literally know two brothers who did this, and they now have people coming to them from all over the country who were, high school and D1 and pro quarterbacks for rehab specifically because they specialized in it, right? And they have a whole business around it now. So
That's awesome.
It can be done. Like that's the kind of stuff that they're entrepreneurs now. They own their own practice and all these other side incomes and side hustles. And, they've all kind of become different revenue streams under their zone of genius. And so they're making more money than you can even imagine. Right. And so is it a good profession? Yeah, if you leverage it appropriately. The problem is a lot of us didn't get into healthcare for money and to get rich. It was because we care about people and we want to help people, right? And that doesn't always equate to money. If you're just going to clock in, clock out 9 to 5, that may not always work out, right? So if you're willing to do more, if you're willing to go the extra mile, yes, it's worth it. I've had an amazing career. Physical therapy has been really good to me. I've had tons of opportunities, but I've also leveraged it with, an English major background and an educational doctorate and brought in a bunch of different things that have helped me open up other revenue streams to make sure that I'm comfortable no matter what happens,
Nice.
So
Yeah, that's awesome. Come on up, Jamie.
And I'm sticking to it.
Good morning, Dom.
Good morning.
Good morning, Doctor.
Morning.
Good to see your face today.
Likewise. We were just trashing the K through 12 system, so perfect timing.
Yeah, I was listening intently.
He was like, "Go on."
Yeah. No, I woke up at 6:28. My alarm went off at 5:30. So that was before I jumped on. I was like, okay, let me get locked into what they're talking about. And you guys are going deep and hard and deep.
Yeah, I was just getting an intro from our friend here just to make sure I had a little bit more understanding of him. Since he's been in the background, he did tell me the other day that he does actually read the book, and you read the Stoic book too, right?
Yeah.
You're a fan as well. Yeah,
I've read the Daily Stoic a lot.
And then you have 2 kids?
Yep. Adeline is my daughter. She's 14. And Emerson is my son, who many of you have seen. He's 8.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And you're in Texas.
Yep. Just outside of Austin in the hill country there out in Wimberley.
And have you been there a while, all your life? Go to school there? What's
So I'm from New York originally, but I married a Texan, and so that's how we ended up here.
Okay.
She was actually born here in Wimberley, and so she always wanted to get back. And we were in Waco, Texas for a little while. That's where I started my teaching journey a little bit. I was working in the clinic and teaching for Baylor University. And then when this other job came up to teach full-time, it was right during COVID, and I really kind of wanted to get out of clinical work at that point. So academia seemed like something to try. We dove in, and I loved it. And so then we moved out here to the hill country. But yeah, it's
Nice.
it's it's Texas. Being from New York, that's sometimes an interesting dichotomy I've noticed. But I take a lot of heat for liking all my terrible New York sports teams, and other than that, I think I just learn something new every day here in Texas. That's for sure.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being around. Thank you for hanging with us. Appreciate you coming up. Well, Jason got his hair ready.
Got my what? My hair?
Put
Yeah,
put
it's
your hat on,
somewhere.
basically.
It's somewhere under there. Doctor, I always enjoyed our short back and forths on K-12 education. I don't disagree with you on many points. My issue is a lot. So, not issue. My background and my qualms with education, at least from mine. Now, this is like 20, going on 22 years ago that I graduated. And one of the things that really sticks with me, that's like really grinds my gears, is the way, and I blame myself mostly. I'm not really blaming these outside forces, kind of referencing today's reading on control what you can control. And I think part of my issue was I didn't know how to take advantage of resources after I graduated, but I do not feel that I really set myself up for like a really good exit out of college. I partly blame the school because I just didn't know, nor was I ever really told about like resources that might help me make contacts and connections within my major area that I could start building a career with. I largely felt like I would just kind of like let go with a degree, and then kind of left to my own devices. And then looking back at high school, yeah, like like growing up, we were told like college is your thing, right? Like that's what you're going to do. And obviously in the past 20 years, that's changed a bit. There's plenty more resources for kids to jump into like trades and stuff, which, you know, a lot of I've had a lot of students who have found a lot of success with that. And a little bit of me is a little bit jealous that they had that. I remember when I was like a junior in high school, we were offered to go to like the P-Tech school, which is like another school, to learn about cars. And like, that seems like a great skill. And what I was told was, yeah, that school is more for kids who aren't really successful here. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess I won't learn about cars. And I didn't realize that till like 5 years later. I'm like, that's one thing that kind of angered me about that whole process. And on my short list is to read the articles that you sent me, Doctor, because I have not gotten there yet. Can we go over a little bit of that? Can you give us a little primer on what those were?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to a lot of what we're talking about today, and you know, yes, college is a decent option, but not a decent option maybe for everybody, right? Yes, we probably should be pushing more people toward trade schools from the beginning of high school, probably, right? Like I think the main reason that I ended up going to college was that my dad was an English teacher for many years. My mom was a senior VP at a bank, and made it through many mergers that ended up being JP Morgan Chase now. And so both of them went to college, and they just kind of set the bar that like, hey, that's, you know, what you should probably do. They never like forced me into it, but it was like, okay, well, if that's what they did, I should probably do it. But I think it goes back to just the way that we teach towards grades and trying to get the best grade and trying to, you know, eventually go to the best school. Like if we're teaching toward a test, like in New York, we had the Regents, right? There's like a state test. That Texas has the STAR test. There's all these state tests that the outcome of those tests are linked to funding from the state, right? And this goes back even way further when the education system was first started by, you know, the Rockefellers and you know, some of the other like big names from 1800s into the 1900s. They said like the moral of the story, the takeaway was, I'm not trying to create a civilization of free thinkers. I'm trying to create a civilization of factory workers because that's what I need for my company, right? And so these factory workers would go to school, then come out and become factory workers. Well, once they had kids, they needed daycare for kids. And so what did they do? Well, they put them in schools. And then those kids would go through school and then they would graduate and they would have kids and they'd need daycare. So it just kind of was like a cycle, right? Like you're kind of forcing people into this rat race of 9 to 5, right? And so school and education hasn't changed a whole lot in that 100 years, right? And we're just kind of teaching them the skills. Like I know when I went to high school, I didn't learn how to balance a checkbook or what a credit card meant or how to purchase a house or like any of that, right? So like if we take more of the Montessori type schooling where it's more experiential learning and trial and error and failure and just see what you like and what you don't like, if we did more of that, that's more teaching and education, that right, using storytelling and linking things to memories and how we can look at the bigger picture. If we do that, that's going to allow people to make better decisions when it comes time to decide, should I go to college? Should I, pick up a trade? What do I find interesting? Like that's how we can kind of perpetuate that. And John Taylor Gatto, the guy who wrote a lot of those articles that I sent you, won Teacher of the Year in New York back in like late 80s, early 90s, I think it was. And the second he won it, he was like, I'm out. I'm never teaching again. I'm doing more damage to these kids than good. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt any more people and their lives and their futures. Because the way that we're teaching towards these tests and like rote memorization and, that's not learning. I did that for many years, right? And that's not learning. And I hit a brick wall when I went from English to physical therapy, which is very math and science based, because I was a rote memorizer. I would just read and highlight and read and highlight and read and highlight till I got it. Then I'd dump it. Then the next test would come and I'd read and highlight and try to memorize the next stuff. Then I'd dump it, right? And none of that was really helpful for me, especially once I got to grad school. So the moral of the story is we have to teach more toward making it stick, right? And seeing a transfer of knowledge from our brain and our experiences to theirs, and then connecting it somehow so that they get it and it sticks with them and they can then implement and do stuff with it. And I think it's teaching is hard. It's an art form, like you really have to have your own style and flow. And once you figure that out, then you can take it a step deeper and really get to the root of how people learn. And everybody learns differently, right? So now you have to take 30, 40 students and teach them all somewhat different ways and methods. And if you can do that and really craft your style and hone in on your style, that's where we kind of get to the point of like, actual learning that can be useful for our futures, like I'm not a proponent of grades, as I was telling Dom earlier. So I think teaching and learning needs a heavy overhaul.
I could not agree with you more than 110%. I'm going to break this down to analogy. As a teacher, let's go back to our childhood and think about those collapsible plastic tunnels that spread out and you kids crawl through. You guys remember those? You on the same page with me?
Yep.
And sometimes there's holes in those little tubes that you kind of stick your arms out, You got me? You with me still? Okay.
Yes.
So if I were to describe the teaching experience in today's world, there's the main tunnel, which is I'm comparing this to the grading system. You have this tunnel where you have to, like, the end goal is like the quantifiable goal is to have kids get good grades so they can advance to the next level, right? And then all those holes in the tunnel that the kids can grab out of, those are the holes where they can kind of go outside of the tunnel and grab all the things that they might want to bring into the tunnel with them. Am I still making sense? Because I'm not yet 10 minutes awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is good. Roll with that.
Yeah. Okay. So when like many teachers, and it's not, I think this is generally an attitude in education, is we're always trying to find different ways to assess and grade and show progress. Like that might be in like multitudes of different kinds of rubrics, whether it's like a 2-point rubric, 3-point rubric, 4-point rubric, and trying to put the numbers aside or the grades aside. So instead of like a 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like, you know, like a not there yet, adequate. You might get words like proficient, exceeds proficiency, and then a bunch of criteria that may or may not be understood by kids, right? It's like we have teaching standards in every content area. I have art standards. And art standards, the reason why I enjoy teaching with art standards is that they're very, they can be very ambiguous, which means like as an art teacher, we are creatives at heart. We can kind of bend whatever we want to teach around those standards. It's like the standards are definitely like, sometimes they feel like clay. You can kind of mold them into whatever you want. However, with all that effort to to change the grading so it's more like student accessible, the end result is always a grade or a number or something. And that's the one tripping point that I think a lot of teachers hit, is like we're trying to move away from this A through F system or this number system into a system that kids can actually look at and be like, oh, okay, this is where I can work on something. Because I mean, I'm also teaching middle school. So like sometimes kids like projects are like one and done, or like their work is just like, okay, I'm just getting this done because this is what I was told to do. And there's many students that know how to play the school game. It's like they know what to do to satisfy the requirement to get the grade, right? But then there are kids who are really good at asking questions and pushing beyond what they're supposed to be learning, and making and kind of taking control of what they're learning to turn into something that's really valuable for them. And that's great. And I don't know where that comes from, but it might be the parents. It might just be the way that they grew up. But like, how do we hop on that mode of thinking? And you hit on the Montessori thing a little bit. And like in my 13 years, there's like, we, the district, the country have tried tons of ways to do that. But it always kind of seems like the standardized testing becomes like the end all be all of what we're teaching towards.
Yeah. I mean, so it goes back to what we were kind of talking about earlier with like the shift in healthcare is moving away from more of the grades and going into more of competency based, right? So are they hitting competencies? Like we still have to measure it some way, shape, or form, but the ABCDF method is definitely not great. I mean, does it work? Can you get some sort of standard? Yes. But if it was more pass fail and advancement, right, where we used like, are they competent in the skill that we taught them, then, I think that would do a lot more people a lot more good earlier on. So we almost have to reverse engineer it from using it in grad school and higher education back toward how can we do this in K through 12. And I like the idea of like exit ramps or the holes in the tunnel you were talking about, where like, 80% is core based stuff that we have to know, but there's 20% opportunity to use those off ramps to go grab something else and learn it, to go try a different skill, to go, make something, to go have an experience, right? Because I think all of those help shape us and help decide what we want to be when we grow up, you know? And that goes back to the very beginning where we talked about the reading and how it's, you know, you can only control what you can control, and that's what you need to focus on. Well, then you should really be taking control of your life, right? And your decisions and what you want to be when you grow up, because eventually you go out on your own and mom and pop aren't there anymore. So you gotta be there to run your own life. And if you're gonna do that and make those kind of decisions, well, that should be started at a pretty early age, when, especially if it's going to come to career or profession or whatever it may be, you know. So give us more control of our life and our decisions by giving us opportunities, right? 80% core, 20% do whatever the hell you want to do and come back to us and let us know how it went, you know. I don't know the big answer here, but I think you know, I'd like to see more of that, you know.
Yeah. Something that I do is, you know, on a much smaller scale, on a much smaller scale than like the entirety of life and the first half of a student's life, is decision making. Like that's the skill that we're trying to teach here.
Exactly.
And you know, with our kids at home and you guys, I think we're probably all similar, where it's like we want kids to be able to make those decisions for ourselves. Sometimes we have to put those guardrails up, right? It's like maybe we give them 3 choices to start, because in school, and I don't want it to I don't want to stay just within bounds of like my art curriculum, but if you give kids too many options, it's like they kind of get that choice overload, and even adults feel that too sometimes, right? And like, you know, one of the questions that we always ask kids, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Half of those times you're gonna get, I don't know, I like playing video games. Maybe I'll be a streamer or something like that. Like I get that a lot. But then, you know, there's also kids who like want to be a veterinarian and, you know, want to reach for the stars. But yeah, teaching to make decisions, I think, can start or should start as early as possible, especially when they get into like the middle school, high school age. Our district does a really good job with that. We do have like an innovation center where it's like a tech-based school, STEM-based school, where it's like kids are bussed in. They can learn anything from aeronautics to biology to like higher end design, programming, all that stuff, which is like great. I'm in a great district. I love it because of that, and I hope that I can have my kids also take advantage of those as well.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes again, when it comes to taking control, right, and controlling the things we can control, the 2 things that I want in my kids, right, is I want them to have radical confidence and good critical thinking and decision making. If they can have those 2 things, it doesn't matter how flawed the system is, they'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when it comes to like problem solving and critical thinking and decision making, you know, if they're confident that they can do hard things, then when it comes to having to figure that out in real life, because I have graduate students that can't critically think. Like they're 25, 27 years old and they get a flat tire and it's the end of the world. They don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, what are your options here? Like, are you safe? Okay, good. Do you have AAA? No. Do you know how to change a tire? No. Okay.
It's call a tow truck or die.
Right. What are we doing here? Like, do you have to, you know, like, do you have to call professors or email somebody or let somebody know? Like, what, you know, the fact that they can't figure this stuff out is mind blowing to me. And I'm not even talking about clinically. I'm just talking about life in general. Like, you know,
Especially when they have a supercomputer in their pocket.
right.
And it's like, you know, the thing that you're on all the time really does have the answers if you just like type in the words. Like,
Yeah.
what do I do if I have a flat tire and I don't have AAA?
Right.
Yeah. Explain to me like a 5-year-old. Anyway, you can, I mean, good Lord, we have AI that can teach you that roadside if you've never done it before.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm reading through the comments here. 9/11. Who's 9/11?
It's our friend Jasmine.
Yes.
Jasmine. Cool.
She's
I'm
a
in Detroit.
911 operator.
For real?
And
Yep.
yeah. And
Oh.
it seemed, and then she's looking at career path going forward. So she has a job, and then she is discussing her future with her parents, college versus what something else, basically. So I think they're trying to push towards the college route, and she's kind of pushing back on, basically the debt, her mom and her sister both have college degrees, and like so it's like a whole conversation, it seems like.
Yeah. I would say that's a healthy attitude that you have about the cost for sure.
Yeah.
I went into that blinders on,
Mhm.
didn't really consider the cost. It was all just like monopoly money to me.
Yeah, me
I
as
was
well.
I was fortunate that my parents put me through. My brother had to pay a little bit for his. I went back to school for teaching, and I'm still paying off student loans for my teaching degree because I did not look at other options. There's a lot of other options that I kind of wish that I looked into that for.
Well, and Jasmine alluded to it in the chat too, that like you learn a ton on the fly in the job, in
Yeah.
real life experiences. Again, it's like Montessori school, but for grown-ups, right? If you just get thrown into the deep end, you're like, all right, good luck swimming. You figure it out eventually, or you drown, right? So like experience goes a long way, and the debt to income ratios are getting worse and worse. So like it's not a great option for everybody. And when Gary talks about that stuff a lot, I agree, but at the same time, there are certain jobs like lawyer, doctor, nurse, whatever, that do require licensure. And so you have to go to grad school, right? So like I get it. If that's your path and that's what you're going to do, fine. But again, I just argue that, it's only worth it to do that if you have a plan and you're going to leverage it into, something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Otherwise,
like, it's
experience and enjoy the job, right? Enjoy what you do.
My first job out of college was so I majored in graphic and online design. This was back in early 2000s when like just web design was the thing, like designing websites. And I fell out of love with like the website stuff very quickly, but always loved design, still do. I use it every day. My first job was at a Fast Signs making like vinyl signs and like vehicle wraps. I did more work in the first 2 weeks of my job than I did over the maybe last 2 years of college. And that's what always stuck with me is like, yes, there's going to be things that you learn that you will need to learn on the fly. I felt like I learned everything on the fly despite going to college for it. Like did my degree get me into those first few steps? Probably, but that just seems like such a giant step that I took between my parents putting me through college to this job. Like I felt like I was not aware of the steps between those that could have either brought down the cost or might have helped me make a few more decisions. And I'm wondering, kids that today are there, like when they're wondering what their next step is, it's like what other options do you have that are not college? Like I'm with my kids, and you guys chat can chime in, you guys can chime in. It's like, yeah, college is an option, but I'm also now reflecting on my experience. I'm like, okay, what other opportunities can I present to my kids that they can make those decisions?
Yeah. I'm
Like,
sending mine out to Dom. I'm just going to send Emerson out there and let him intern with Dom for a while. Just say, hey, man, learn how to build houses. You'll be fine.
yeah. Learn how to
Yeah,
do
I
the
offered that. I offered that to my teen the other day when I took her to work. I'm like, uh, because she doesn't have a plan, and we're starting to talk about it more and more. But you know, I think it's crazy and strange. Like I've heard it somewhere that like we thrust all of this upon an 18-year-old's, 17-year-old's brain to just be like, okay, now just pick something out of these, 1,000 possible careers and jobs and these, you know, 14,000 colleges. Just pick one thing, go one place, spend god awful amounts of money, and then that's what you're going to have to do or feel like you have to do your entire life because you made that choice and spent all of that money with your 18-year-old brain. Like it's like what I did, like I wanted to be a pilot when I was 17. So I went to an aeronautical university, private, and like spent all this money. And then I hated it like so much about it. Like I liked the flying, but I just didn't like all the other stuff. And so there's debt, there's that choice, and it's like, yeah, because I was 18 or 17 at the time. Like I didn't how could you make that choice? So for my kids, I'm just doing the exact opposite. I'm lightly asking them, there will be no pressure. Like Bailey's just going to go to a community college and just, I just want her to get her feet wet. I basically told her, I'm like, I want you to take, business and finance classes so you can at least learn the basics of starting your own business or at least just managing your money so that you can be in a better position than I am and everyone in our family is. And then just try stuff. Just get a job. Come work with me, go work with your mom. Like I don't care. Like figure it out.
It seems
See
like
what
the
your
best
friends are doing.
seems like the best way for a pilot to learn is to get on board, get under the wing of a famous explorer, and at some point be on a plane where they have to fight someone and they tell you, you'll have to land the plane. That seems
Trial
like,
by fire.
yeah.
Yeah. The flying's the easy part. The planes do everything nowadays.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Like
Having me, man.
like save this one and run it back for people who need to who need to start a conversation in their brain about education.
Yeah. I enjoyed this. This
That was a good one.
I'm going to be totally honest. This was a gigantic step conversation from waking up and jumping into this. So thanks for jumping on.
We tossed you. We went from awake to drive on the Autobahn in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, fellas.
Thanks
I
for coming up.
appreciate you.
Everyone, have a good day. Thanks for joining us in the background. Appreciate everybody, and we will see you tomorrow. See you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm gonna jump
Have a
on
great day,
tomorrow.
man.
I feel like I'm missing Dom. So I think I'm gonna jump on.
Yeah. Hey, you got a free minute? You want to stay after?